Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ummatul Muslimin, inshallah today we'll be looking at the 6 juz of the Quran and the first quarter of the 6 juz of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this portion of the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about one of the fundamental and distinguishing beliefs between us and the disbelievers, to be more specific, the Christians. And this is with regards to Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam. As we know, it is a well-known fact that people of the Christian faith, many are they that believe that Isa alayhi salam, commonly known as Jesus, was crucified and killed on the cross. And as believers, the Quran is categoric when it mentions that وَمَا صَلَبُوهُ وَمَا قَتَلُوهُ, that regarding Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, he was not crucified nor was he killed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the details of what transpired. بَلْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ وَلَكِنْ شُبِّهَ لَهُمْ, that someone was made to resemble Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, and بَلْ رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ إِلَيْهِ, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala lifted him towards himself. So, as believers, as Muslims, we believe that Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam did not die on the cross, nor was he killed. But instead Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved him in such a way that he lifted him up towards the heavens. So this is one of the fundamental beliefs that distinguishes us, the believers, the Muslims, from the Christians. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala later on in this juz, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions a surah that is known as Al-Ma'idah. And inshallah, we'll use the naming of this surah to culminate our synopsis, inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this surah makes mention of a very interesting incident. And this is the incident of the first murder that ever took place on the face of this earth. And that was due to the dispute between the sons of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention of how the two sons of Adam alayhi salam began to fight. As the Mufassirin mention that Sayyidina Hawa alayhi salam, the wife of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam, our mother, would usually give birth in pairs. And it was forbidden for the brother and sister of one pair to get married to each other. And what happened was, there was a brother, Qabil to be more specific, who was supposed to get married to the sister of Habil. And he disliked her due to her physical appearance and denied her marriage and intended to get married to his own sister. So that was something that was forbidden, and due to this animosity, Qabil ended up claiming the life of his brother Habil. Now, according to the hadith, it is mentioned that for every murder that takes place on the face of this earth, Qabil gets a portion of that sin. Now, what does this teach us? This is a very important lesson for us, that whenever it comes, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to save us from sin, and we try our best to abstain from sin. But more importantly, we should always try and abstain from being the initiator of sin, of being someone that initiates something. The sin, the effects are such that will carry on for generations and generations. Why? Because a person starts something that is evil, and a person might have taught it to someone else. And every time that person does this action, a person will get a portion of that sin. So this is the lesson that we learn from this story of the two sons of Adam alayhi salam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala then makes mention of one of the beautiful ayats of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala speaks about the importance of preserving life. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَنْ قَتَلَ نَفْسًا بِغَيْرِ حَقٍّ أَوْ فَسَادٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ. Anyone that claims the life of anyone without any just reason, or a person spreads vice or mischief upon the earth, فَكَأَنَّمَا قَتَلَ النَّاسَ جَمِيعًا. It is as if a person has claimed the life of an entire nation. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, وَمَنْ أَحْيَاهَا, if a person that saves one life, it is as if a person has saved the entire human race. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in this beautiful short verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches us the importance of preserving life. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in the 7th juz of the Quran, the first quarter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention, and this is where the surah itself, Surah Ma'idah, gets its name from. This Ma'idah, in Arabic, translated in English as a table, was a request of the Israelites that they made to Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, and they requested that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala send for them a table full of food for them, so they could have a feast and they could have a celebration. And Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam requested Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted their request. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes mention of this, which shows us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had granted them so many different favors. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala favored them in every sense of the word, and yet when it came to showing their full conviction to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they failed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as we mentioned previously, does this to show us and to tell us, to remind us not to fall into the same footsteps of the Israelites. With that I conclude. Jazakumullahu khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.